News, views, voices of the global Indian community. India abroad.
May I invite John and Henry on the stage? May I invite Arvind Krishna, Chairman, IBM?
All right. I also know that we're between this and your dinner, but I think you're going to find it entertaining. The video did a lot of tribute to what Henry's been doing in India. But do many of you know that he pretty much created the model of what we would now call private equity, private debt in a company that goes back just shy of 50 years, if I remember it right. On a very personal note, he helped mentor, I'll use the word train, though Lou might react to that. The person who became one of IBM's greatest CEOs, Lou Gerstner, worked for Henry right before he came to IBM. And when you think about now, they're far beyond PE. They're PE, they're investors, they're private debt. They're actually a very large operating entity as well. People kind of forget that. And I think that all of these have had a massive impact on, I'll use the word economic diplomacy as it goes around. And India has certainly been a massive beneficiary of that. But thinking about this and thinking about the kind of questions that this room might find interesting, Henry, as you look at what's happening economically around the globe, any comments for the room on that? And also sort of what is its impact and India's role in all of this economic miracles that are happening around the globe.
Arvind, thank you for having me here, and thank you for the leadership for offering this award to me. Thank you, John and Mukesh. Thank you very much. I love India. We're going to start with that. I make it very clear. I've been going to India since 1989. I've gone practically every year until COVID hit. India is a really interesting country to me. I find it fascinating. And to me, in many ways, it's like an onion. The more you peel it back, the more you learn, the more interesting it is. And it's a fascinating country. In fact, I spent 3 Christmases in India. I've been down the south in Cochin, up to Srinagar, and lots of places in between. The world is an interesting place right now. Somebody described it to me when I asked the question, how do they see the world? And they said, you know, about those guys in the circus where they have those plates on a stick and they're spinning them around. And they said, you know, I'm really concerned that one's going to fall off. And it sort of put it in perspective for me. Look, right now the U.S. is reasonably strong. I think inflation will probably be stickier than most people think. I think it's going to stay here longer. Goods are coming down, but I think services will be up for a long time. I think wages will stay up. I just think it's going to be a stickier time there. Europe's a little upside down. You know, it wasn't so long ago, 2009, 2010 period, that if you think about Europe, there were about 5 countries that were going to go in the ocean, and everybody was saying, well, they just won't be around, and that was Spain, Portugal, Italy, Greece, and Ireland. What's the fastest growing country right now? Well, it's Greece. What are the slowest growing countries in Europe right now is Germany and France. France is a little upside down now that President Macron has called for a snap election, so to be determined what happens there. So I think you're going to see continued slow growth in Europe. Asia's a different thing. You know, it's interesting. Take Japan, for example, and we focus right now Pan-Asia, and really the 2 bookends for us, the most interest to us as far as investments today, India on one side, Japan on the other side. 2 totally different economies, different countries for lots of different reasons. But in Japan, you know, finally, they're having a little inflation. That's actually good for that country. China's exporting deflation because they have so much capacity right now. Just take their EV industry, they have about a 65% utilization rate right there. So that's awfully low, and they're dropping prices, and I think that will continue for a long time. They have their own problem with housing. There are about 700,000, you know, homes that need to be sold somehow. I'm not sure how it's going to all work out, but they have, and that's, wait, I gave you the wrong number, $700 million worth of homes that need to be sold. And right now they have basically set up an incentive program for about 10% of that, and that's about it. So they've got to somehow work through all of that excess capacity in the housing industry. So, you know, overall, what I would say, Arvin, is there's enormous opportunity today. I don't happen to agree when I read all these surveys that say that the next generation, and you can name any country practically, they don't think the generation will do as well as the last generation. I don't happen to agree with that, because I think technology in and of itself, which you know something about, is going to really change that. I think people will look back in history and say, wow, this was an incredible opportunity. I love investing when everybody's looking at their feet and saying, oh, woe, poor us, the world's coming to an end. Same thing happened in Europe during the global financial crisis. I spent a lot of time in Spain. I wanted to find out if I really believed that Spain was going to go in the ocean. And came away and said, absolutely not. And we concluded, let's dump the back up the dump truck and put as much capital into Spain as we can. That's how we invest. Find areas that you have conviction in that you do not think are going away. And I put India right at the top of that list.
Oh, and I think the track record speaks for itself on those convictions. So talking about India, what are you thinking about the potential of the Indian market with respect to what has been talked about sort of briefly before in terms of the US-India economic alignment, and which sector, if any, would you point out is got opportunity?
with lots of opportunity in India. First of all, you have a very good educated workforce. You have a young population. You have about 860 million people that are on the internet. And you have a lot of terrific entrepreneurs. And so I get really excited about it. The areas where we're focusing our effort right now in India is on the consumer, the upgrade of the consumer. The consumer wants to go from where they were and be able to afford more. There have been so many good things that President Modi has been able to, or Prime Minister Modi has been able to do, that have been absolutely fantastic for the average person. The idea that they have an identification card now makes a huge difference. You know, we take it for granted in America. Let me tell you, that's a huge thing in India. People have bank accounts now, which they didn't have before. And so we're really focusing on where is the consumer going? What can we do to help that? We're focused also on a lot of AI, focused on financial services and healthcare in particular, and some cybersecurity that we're focused on where we might be able to combine that with some things that we're doing in the States.
That sounds pretty robust across a pretty wide variety. So you mentioned the Prime Minister, but we know that the government has been making a lot of efforts to make doing business easier. It wasn't always so easy to do business, especially for foreign firms. Do you see that making an impact on how you invest and in the ability for investors to put money into India?
Oh, without a doubt. You know, it's interesting. Early days when I would go to India, I wasn't sure we'd be able to put any money into India. The fact that infrastructure has improved dramatically, and that's huge there, and that was one of their biggest problems. Everything took much longer to get built. The roads were terrible, so moving goods from one location to another was difficult. So infrastructure has become substantially better. The GST tax is just huge. That cut out a lot of bureaucracy, cut out a lot of corruption, quite frankly, and that's very positive. So yes, okay, to give you an example. You know, the first time I met with Prime Minister Modi, he came to New York shortly after that he was elected. And there were 6 of us that were asked to meet with him one-on-one. And I was one of them chosen, and they said, you have 20 minutes. So I had to think, well, what am I going to talk to the Prime Minister about? First of all, he's going to think that KKR is the Kolkata Knight Riders. And so let me tell you, I had to take off KKR off my Google search because all I would get is the name of every player on that team. And so I said, I've got to explain who we are. He's not going to know. He'll understand GE and BlackRock and so forth. So I explained that to him. And then I said, I don't think that your country will ever grow to its potential unless you have a broad and deep capital market, because you don't have it. You have a bank market right now, and you need to have a broad and deep capital market. For example, you limit the ownership of insurance companies. Why? 25% at that time, and then now it's moved up significantly. I said, and the reason your capital market, I think, is not as broad and as deep as it should be is you don't have a bankruptcy law. He said to me, what do you mean we don't have a bankruptcy law? I said, you don't have a bankruptcy law. He called over some fellow from his entourage who was on the side there from the financial department, and he says, Kravis here says we don't have a bankruptcy law. Is that true? He said, yes, sir, that is true. So he asked me, he said, would I put something together for him to that he could then think about? And I said, okay, and figure we'll put something together, it'll go into ether, we'll never see anything. We put something together, got it to him, and literally within about 2.5 months, he got it through the lower house. I saw him in between, and he said, you know, I've gotten it through the lower house, and I think we will get it through the upper house. Got it through the upper house, and it's gotten a bit better and better each year that since it's been in place. But that was a huge stumbling block, and they didn't even appreciate the fact that that was what was causing the contraction of their capital markets. So he's a doer, and I asked him afterward, I said, I've got to congratulate you, because I don't think we could get something like that through the US Congress as fast as you have gotten it through a very difficult government, lower house and upper house in India. He said, well, I didn't know if we could get it done, but I thought it was important enough to try it. And it's gotten successively better as it's gone on. But you have a man that wants to improve this country. You have a man that really wants to support investment in the country. We put a lot of money into infrastructure as an example, because he wants private investment there. We put money into financial services because he wants money there and he wants expertise there. So it is a terrific country to do business, in my view.
I think those are great examples. Coming to something that was explored and stated by the senators, by John, by Neera, by the ambassador, it seems like the US-India relationships are feeling different today. Part of it is what's going on in all geopolitics, and India is taking a larger and larger role, certainly across the global south, but probably even larger than that when we think about the Quad got mentioned, various other forums are mentioned, the role that India has begun to play in APEC and many other forums. Do you have any view on where you see the US-India relationship going as you look down the road?
Well, first of all, I think it will continue to grow. It's multidimensional. If you think about our values and India's values, we believe very strongly in democracy. Just had a major election, and to get as many people to vote in India is phenomenal when you think about it. We have an election coming up. So we absolutely believe in that, people to people. You know, there are 5 million plus Indian Americans today. There's 270,000 students with visas in the United States. Last year alone, I think, was a record. Indians looking for visas to come to the U.S., 1.4 million visas were issued out of the embassy. This is phenomenal. So I think the whole people-to-people relationship and building on that is extremely important. We have common defense issues that are needed, in particular in the South, but throughout. In some ways, we have a common enemy, one that's on the border of India, and obviously we have our own issues with China. So that will bring us closer together. I think about 10, 20 years ago, defense spending from India at the U.S. was basically zero, and now it is over $200 billion is being spent. So all of this is very positive, and I think that will continue to be. And then, of course, we have common interest in AI, cybersecurity, financial interest being connected to the global network. So I think there's a lot of areas that we will continue working together on.
I think that sounds pretty positive also for the relationship to continue this time. And for a couple of people that mentioned there was a little bit of skepticism and cynicism, but people forget it was very friendly, then it became a little skeptical, now it's back to being friendly. And I think you're pointing to that the trajectory looks upward from now on.
Yes, I think going forward that yes, we have a lot of common interest to work toward.
So if you think about global investments, any trends that you're watching as you look forward that you're paying attention to, Henry?
Well, I'm sitting up here with a gentleman running one of the biggest and best known tech companies in the world, so I should ask you that question. Not asking me that question. But John Chambers said in the introduction earlier, and I agree 100%, AI is the most important thing to come along, and it is going to grow much faster, much bigger than the internet itself. And I couldn't agree more with that whole sentiment. And what that means for companies. I will, there's a wonderful saying that General Shinseki, who used to be Chief of Staff of the Army, would say. He said, if you don't like change, you're going to like obsolescence a lot less. And you think about it, and that's exactly right. That's what AI is going to do. So many people are afraid of AI. It's going to put everybody out of work. I don't believe that. Actually, I think it's going to create more jobs, different kind of jobs. Productivity is finally starting to go back up again because of technology, which for the longest time we didn't have much productivity growth in the U.S. So I see that as a real positive. Yes.
So final question, Henry. So as we think about it, is there any personal experience or anecdote that shaped your worldview of sort of what you are today and how you choose to invest and how you choose to act?
Wow, that's a big question. I think, look, to me, there's opportunity everywhere. And you just have to look for it. And you've got to look for it and invest when nobody wants to invest. It's easy to follow a trend and just go with it. That's the easy part. The harder part is going against when everything looks bad. Take the global financial crisis. I don't think there's anybody in this room, and I certainly did not expect a financial crisis as deep and as frightening as that was. And during that time, we told everybody at KKR, focus on what you can control, because there's so much noise in the system, and there's a lot of stuff that none of us can control. But focus on what you can control, which in our case were the investments that we had. Focus on those companies, get the debt down as fast as you can, cut the cost as fast as you can, and be ready to invest big time when we come out of this, because we will come out of it. Don't know when or how, but we will come out of it. I think that has changed my thinking a lot. You have to always look at what's the downside, but I'm an optimist, and you always try to find, the silver lining in everything that we do. I'd say there's one thing that I want to just comment about this, because it made a huge difference in how I think, how my partner George Roberts thinks, and that was when we started KKR in 1976. He and I didn't have any money. We each put up $10,000. And to start KKR, Jerry Kohlberg, and Jerry had a little more. He was 19 years old, and he put up $100,000. But the second conversation that we had was the most transformative conversation in my view, and it really shaped what KKR is today, and that was what kind of culture do we want to have. And we made the decision that we wanted to have a culture where everybody at the firm participated in everything we did, whether you were a partner at the firm or you weren't a partner, whether you worked on a transaction or you didn't, and that was very important. And why was we wanted to get the best thinking out of everybody. If we called anybody at the firm, we didn't want anybody saying, gee, I'm too busy, because they knew, why would I go work and help over here, because I'm only going to get paid on what I do. And we came from a culture like that at Bear Stearns, so we wanted something totally different. We wanted a culture where everybody participated, everybody shared in the risk and in the reward that came out of it. And that's what KKR is today. We've taken KKR from $120,000 when we started, and today we have a little over $100 billion market cap. And it's the same culture we have today that we started with 48 years ago. So that's the transformative thing for me.